how's it going? I am Kelsey A.L. Nutritional Therapist. I am a paleo chef and baker, and I am the author of the new cookbook, Paleo Sweets. Tons of super yummy, dairy-free, soy-free, refined sugar-free, gluten-free, awesome paleo desserts. And you are with me in my kitchen today in Santa Monica, and I'm really glad that you're here because today I am going to show you how to make the perfect paleo pie crust. Now, I use this crust for a lot of recipes. There's actually a whole chapter of pies in my book right here. This is the lemon meringue pie, which is a really great example, but the one I'm interested in these days is a strawberry icebox pie. The only baking that is required is the crust, which is what I'm about to show you. And the rest of the time it chills in the fridge, but there are a lot of great options. And I don't know about you, but I grew up with pies around. I love pie, and I'm really excited to have an opportunity to show you a healthy version of one of the least healthy parts of the pie, which is normally the crust. So we're gonna go ahead and get started with our ingredients. It's really simple to throw together, and if you want to make the pie crust today after watching this video, you can wrap it up, store it in the freezer for a time when you know you're gonna want to make a pie. But we'll start with a big mixing bowl and some measuring cups. And this pie crust is a combination of several different types of grain-free and gluten-free flours. The first type we're going to get into is coconut flour. Coconut flour is really unique. It has a lot of fiber, it's very low glycemic, and it absorbs a lot of moisture. And it's going to help, let me see, even that out. The coconut flour is going to help give the pie crust a little bit of density. It's going to help it stay together because, again, it's going to be a nice flaky pie crust. We don't need it to float off into space. The coconut flour gives it a little bit of density. And I went ahead and I put in 1 cup. In the book, you will see one recipe. I'm doubling the recipe right now. And it's super simple. Again, you can pack it up, store it in the freezer. You have enough for 2 pies whenever you're ready. It's just great to have on hand anytime you want to make a nice pie-like treat. So the next thing we're going to add is 1 cup of arrowroot starch. And arrowroot starch is actually from a root. It's from the tapioca root. So this is going to help lighten up some of the density of the coconut flour, and it's going to give more of a traditional texture to the pie crust itself. Again, we're using grain-free, gluten-free ingredients. And it's going to be super yummy and delicious, even without all of the nasty ingredients we normally have to put in. The third kind of flour we're using is almond flour. Almond flour is one that we love in paleo baking. So this is going to give kind of a rich, nutty flavor to the pie crust. Same amount, so it's 1, 1, 1 if you want to double the recipe, or if you just want to make a single pie crust, you'd use a ½ cup of each of these. All right. So we're going to go ahead and pour that in. Next, we have a little bit of sea salt. Salt is great. I like my pie crust. I don't know about you, but I like my pie crust to be a little bit salty. It's a great way to balance out the sweet of the filling in the pie. So the pie crust that we're making today is a recipe that you would use for sweet pies. I have a really great, again, strawberry icebox pie. I have a really awesome pecan pie that I love in this cookbook. By the way, Paleo Sweets cookbook is free. All you have to do is pay shipping. And I'll go ahead and I'll put a link in the comments below underneath this video as soon as I'm done showing you how to make this amazing pie crust. So because we're doubling the pie crust recipe, I'm going to go ahead and use ½ teaspoon of salt. And I promise this is not going to overpower the recipe, but it's going to give you that amazing traditional flavor that you're used to. Again, the salty is going to kind of play off the sweet, and it's going to be magical. I'm going to take a whisk, and I'm just going to combine all of these. You can see them coming together really nicely. Another great reason I like to double this recipe sometimes is because I feel like it can be a little bit on the messier side. You'll see the next ingredient we're going to add is going to give the pie crust, again, a really traditional flaky texture, but it's an alternative to typical Crisco, which a lot of people use in pie crust to give it that flaky texture. So the next ingredient we're going to add is palm shortening. So palm shortening is interesting. It is a derivative of palm oil. It is slightly modified, but it is not hydrogenated and it contains no trans fats. So you don't have to worry about this being bad for your health. It's a really great substitute any place you would use normal shortening in recipes. And it's not the only option for this particular recipe. So I do want to let you know if you want to avoid palm shortening or you don't have it available to you, you can use ghee instead. Ghee is a variation of clarified butter. It's had the lactose and the casein removed, so it can be safe for some people who are lactose sensitive, but it gives you the same effect, a nice flaky crust that is super delicious, and everyone will love it. And they will love you for giving them healthy, delicious sweets. So I'm going to go ahead and again put in 1 cup. So it's a really easy recipe to remember whether you're doubling it or doing it as a single recipe. So it's 1 cup if you're doubling it, half a cup if you're making just a single recipe. So doubling the recipe can also be helpful if you're making a more traditional cherry or apple pie that requires a top crust as well as a bottom crust. I don't know if you had many of those growing up. I did have my handful, my share of them, and they were great. And I would love to know, as we're talking about it, what's your favorite kind of pie? After today, I know you're going to be so inspired to go make this pie crust, but what are you going to put in it? You know, I have so many great options for you in Paleo Sweets. We have a traditional Australian and New Zealand pie that's known as banoffee pie, which is toffee with bananas. Again, all paleo, no refined sugar. You can make it dairy-free if you want to. We have strawberry icebox pie. I'm actually really into fruit pies right now. And it's interesting. So the strawberry icebox pie is great because I live in California and strawberries are in season all year long. We're super lucky here. We also have a lot of citrus available, so I do make the lemon meringue pie from the cookbook very often, quite often. And as soon as we get done making this pie crust, I'm going to show you guys a few cool ways to like decorate it and spice it up, give it a little bit of flair. Super simple again, but it just adds that little touch that makes everyone a little bit more impressed with your paleo baking. So I'm just using a fork right now to cut in the shortening. The shortening was room temperature, so it's a little bit softer, easier to scoop, and easier to work into the flours. So you can see I'm just kind of smooshing it down, and it's getting crumbly. It's becoming the same kind of texture you would be familiar with a more traditional pie crust, but again, we're not using any trans fats. You have the option to use palm shortening, you have the option to use ghee, and there's several types of grain-free flours in here that combine to make a really nice classic texture. So you can see it's kind of getting, I'll bring it up to you guys while I'm doing this. It's good to get personal, right? Hi. So you can see I'm just kind of cutting this in, and it's getting crumbly. You can see that? Right there. And this is awesome. It's going to be so yummy, and it's not quite the last step yet, but again, how simple is this? It's just equal amounts. So we have 4 cups total in this bowl right now because we're doubling the recipe. And I'm just going to keep kind of cutting in until there are no pockets of flour left, and it's all been combined with the palm shortening. Now from there, I'm going to scrape that off. Scrape off the fork, add it back in. Mix, 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 and we do a little dance, and we all eat pie. All right, I'm going to stop being a nerd. Now, the next ingredient we're going to add are 2 liquid ingredients, and that's really going to help the dough come together. And at first, it might look a little sticky, but the coconut flour is going to absorb a lot of moisture, and it's going to be perfect and super simple to roll out. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to wipe my hands on my apron, because that's what aprons are for. I'm going to crack this egg, and I'm just going to have a quarter cup of water here. Between a quarter and a half cup is about where you want to aim for, and you can adjust based on whether or not you need a little bit more. You can add a couple more tablespoons in if you feel like the dough isn't quite coming together. So I'm going to go ahead and crack the egg, and I'm just going to separate it into the water because it saves me a dish, and then I don't have to wash as many things after I make this amazing pie crust. So you see the egg white just plops right in there to the water, separating that out. And then you can save this egg yolk and add it to the next saute that you're making, add it to a soup. It's really great healthy nutrients in the egg yolk, so you want to make sure that you hold on to that and don't throw it away. You can also save it, and if you want to make several pie crusts, you can use the egg yolks to make paleo ice cream or paleo gelato, whichever way you want to look at it. I like to save them. There's always a use for the egg yolks, and there's no need to waste anything if you can find a good place for it. All right, so the mixture is nice and crumbly. I'm going to go ahead and pour in the egg yolk and the water. And let's see. Mix, mix, mix. And again, it'll start out looking like a little bit goopy, and you might think you've added too much water at first, but keep mixing. Make sure the egg yolk gets nice and combined. And you'll see that it starts to just form a really nice, cohesive dough. And this is where it starts to get neat and kind of come together. Not just cool, but it stops being as messy. So you can see all of a sudden I have this awesome ball of dough. And that is exactly what I want it to look like. So I also have another tip for those of you who are watching right now. And if you want to make an egg-free variation of this, it's super simple. You just leave out the egg. Add a couple tablespoons more water if you need it, but you don't actually need the egg for everything to come together. The end texture will be a little bit different. It will be like a little bit more firm and not quite as flaky, and you have to be careful not to over bake it, but generally it'll come together just fine, and then you can have an egg-free version because eggs are a really common allergy, or maybe you just don't have any eggs in the house but you still want to make an awesome pie. You can just leave the egg white out and it'll still come together fine, just like that. So I'm going to show you guys my ball of dough. I'm going to make sure all the egg whites are mixed in. There was a little bit left right there. So yeah, I'm going to show you guys. It just came together so nicely, and look, from all that crumbliness, now we have a nice ball of dough right here. So what I'm going to do with this is set this bowl aside. We're going to grab the plastic wrap that we have. So plastic wrap is a really great option. If you don't have plastic wrap around, you can leave the dough in a glass bowl and you can cover it with like a damp paper towel, and that should be fine. I'm going to set it in the plastic wrap though. Plastic wrap is great for keeping all the moisture tucked in, but it allows the dough to kind of come together and harden a little bit. And I'm just going to wrap it up like so. And there you go, nice and neat and tidy. So because I'm going to be baking this today, I'm going to stick it in the fridge for about 30 minutes or overnight. We'll see if I get to baking the pie this afternoon, if I end up doing it tomorrow. But if you want to store this in your freezer, you'll keep it in the plastic wrap and then cover it with foil. And then I would put it in a Ziploc bag just to give a little bit of extra protection against the freezer so it doesn't get icy or freezer burned or turn weird. You can keep it in the freezer for up to a month. I'm going to go ahead and set this aside because, like magic, I actually have a batch of dough that I made earlier. And then I will show you how we are going to roll it out and make it look super fancy. So you can see I doubled the recipe earlier. I just flattened the ball, I cut it in half, and now I have one single pie crust worth of dough. Pie crust worth of dough. That's an exact amount, right? It's a very specific scientific measurement. So to move on to the next step of actually baking the pie crust, I'm going to need 2 sheets of parchment paper. I don't know that I've tried this with wax paper, but I believe wax paper would work just as well. You just want a surface that is pliable, that your dough will not stick to, because we're going to be rolling this out. So what I'm doing right now is I'm kind of pushing it into a rounder shape and flattening it into a disc. And that again is going to make it a lot easier to roll out in the end. I'm going to unwrap it from the plastic wrap, place it on the parchment paper, set the plastic wrap aside, and then we'll come in. I used this parchment paper earlier to roll out another crust, so I don't want to use the same side again or it'll get kind of sticky. And it's an example of reusing. Reduce, reuse, recycle. Don't have to waste too much. So I'm going to press it down, again, just making it kind of nice and flat. And one thing you'll start to notice as you're rolling out the pie dough is that it doesn't quite stretch. There's no gluten. It's totally gluten-free. Normally, gluten is what gives the pie dough its stretch and its give. And because we don't have that, we're just going to be playing with our food a little bit more. We're going to be using our hands to mold the perfect paleo pie crust, which is a tongue twister in and of itself, isn't it? Say that 5 times fast. Perfect paleo pie crust. So the technique for rolling out dough so that it's nice and even is going to be to push away, and then you'll want to apply pressure with the heels of your hand in the middle of the rolling pin and pull it towards you. So I'll pull towards twice, I'll push away twice, and then going to go ahead and rotate. So I'm just rotating it so the side is now facing me, and I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to push out twice, and I'm going to pull towards me twice. And I'm going to push out, and I'm going to pull towards. So as we're going about doing this, what we really want to do is we want to make the pie crust the right size for the pie tin. This fits like an 8 or 9-inch pie tin. And we want to make sure that we have enough to cover the entire tin all the way up the side. So I'll show you how to do like a really easy measurement in just a second. But we got to keep rolling if we're going to get to that point. This also helps us get a nice even crust all the way around because we want every bite of pie to be delicious. We don't want one bite of pie to be all crust and one bite to be unsupported and all filling. We want a nice balance. It's definitely worth the time. So as we're rolling out the pie crust, a story comes to mind for me when I was growing up. When I was a little kid, we used to always do Christmas dinner at my aunt's house, and we would all get together, and it would always be the cousins and the aunts and the uncles and my grandma, and there was one pie in particular there that I loved, and it was French silk pie. I don't know if any of you have heard of French silk pie, but it's like so amazing. It's a chocolate mousse filling, and a whipped cream topping with chocolate shavings. And I think I was a little bit of a chocoholic even as a child. I mean, come on, we love chocolate, right? But I just have such fond memories of that pie. And I remember the crust, again, the little bit of saltiness of the crust was so yummy and so good against the richness of the chocolate and the whipped topping that it really made it a memorable flavor. Obviously, because I'm talking to you about it now 20 years later. So again, if you're just joining us, I would love to know what your plans are for this pie crust after you make it today, after you grab the ingredients and whip it up. What's your favorite pie? Do you have childhood memories of a specific pie or even a specific dessert? Let me know, and just say hey if you're joining. Hi, and let me know where you're from in the comments. We love to hear from you. I love to hear from you. All right, so I think I'm going to do a little check around the edge, and what I'm feeling for are areas of thickness. And it seems like everything is pretty even just around the edges, so I'll show you really quick. We're going to take the pie tin. We want to find out if we have enough dough to cover the whole pie tin. So I'm just going to set the tin down on top and make sure there's about 1 inch of dough around every edge, which there is right now. So we're ready to move on to the next step, which is going to be a lot of fun and games. First things first, we're going to peel off the top layer of parchment paper. And we'll set that to the side. I've already used it twice, so I might not use it again. And now we're going to take the pie tin and set it upside down on top of the rounded dough. So you can see how there's dough coming out from the edges. That's exactly what we want. We want to try to center the pie tin on top of the dough, and I'm going to take my hand and I'm going to slide it underneath the parchment paper just to the center of the pie tin and the center of the dough. Now this is where you want to be quick, and it's not going to be perfect no matter how many times you tried it. I promise. Your pie crust is always going to break, and that's okay. So we're going to flip in 1, 2, you ready? Okay, perfect. So we did have one nice chunk break off, which is okay because it was a little bit bigger than the circle. But now we're going to leave the parchment paper on the crust, and I'm just going to take my hand and gently start to fit the crust into the pie tin. And one thing I love about pie is there are pies for every season. There are fruit pies in the spring and summer, and then there are more decadent and rich pies, you know, nut pies and pumpkin pies in the fall and winter. Pie is really an all-season kind of dessert, and you can even adapt it and make it into a tart crust. So this is the same crust that I use in the blueberry cream tart in Paleo Sweets. Again, it's a really versatile recipe, and if you did want to bake a savory pie or a quiche of some sort, again, this is the perfect crust to do it in. So we're going to gently peel off the top layer of parchment paper, and you can see, I'll show you again. So I have been doing this for I don't know how many years, and I want to show you, like, if this is what your pie crust looks like, then you're on the right track. Okay, so there are some cracks and crevices that need to be filled in, but again, this is where we get into playing with our food a little bit. I'm going to go ahead and use this piece that broke off in just a minute, but in the meantime, I'm going to start eyeballing the crust, seeing where we can add and subtract a little bit to fill in the gaps. We want the crust to be even all along the edges. Again, we want every bite of pie to be about the same, and we want to make sure we have enough crusts around the edges because we're about to do some really cool decorations. And I'm going to show you guys some of my favorite ways to spice up a pie, no pun intended, but make it look a little cooler and more artistic. So I'm starting to gather the excess dough down, just like so. And again, you're just going to take your time, you're going to even it out and folding it over, and we're just going to make it look pretty. I feel like a little girl playing with Play-Doh right now, but it's fun. Embrace your inner child. Play with the pie dough. And we are going to make such a pretty pie crust, you guys. I'm excited. So what I want to show you my technique for this next step, which is to kind of take my finger and my thumb and my knuckle, and I'm kind of pinching. I don't think I can do it while I'm standing up. I'll just have to show you from this angle. Kind of pinching and pinching and pinching and pinching, and it's bringing the top of the crust together. It's creating a little bit of a lip that's coming in over the pie crust, which is going to be really helpful for containing the filling a little bit later on. So eventually, again, just take your time with it, pat it down, play with the Play-Doh of the pie crust, embrace your inner child. Cooking should be fun, so try to make it relaxing and enjoyable. So after pinching it down and kind of, you know, working my Play-Doh magic on it, you can see we have a little bit smoother of a crust edge. And we're about to do, again, some really cool things. So it's nice that we have this lip around the top that's a little bit thicker. You can kind of see how it juts in a little bit. We have a little bit more meat to work with. So I'm going to show you 4 different ways to decorate the pie crust. And they're really super simple. The first technique we're going to use is the classic pinching technique. So again, I'm taking my finger and my thumb and then my middle finger, and we're going to do this movement along the pie crust. I'm only going to go about 1/4 of the way. We're just going to pinch and pinch. Super simple. And again, you're going to do it the first time. You're going to go back around and just do what you can to make it look pretty. It's going to be good, I promise. It's going to taste just as good, no matter how amazing or on its way to being amazing it looks the first time. So there we go. Classic pinch crust, just like that. So your grandma probably made this for you. I love this, especially for traditional pies like pecan pie. I have an amazing pecan pie in Paleo Sweets. I love this crust. It has that home feeling, that kind of classic rustic feeling, and I love that about pies in general. So the next technique I'm going to show you is more of a thatch technique. We're going to use a fork, and we have a couple of options for this. So another traditional design you might see in pie crust is going to be just taking the fork and pressing it in solidly around the edges. This makes me think of cheesecake, or sometimes key lime pie has this really classic thatched edge. So I'm going to show you this one. And again, I just took a fork. Can you see that right there? Ah, there it is. So yeah, you're just taking a fork and press lightly and pull, and press and pull. And you just kind of do that all the way around until the design is exactly how you want it. Next, so we have 4 different crust styles we're going through. Fashion crust is what we're making for our pies today. So I'm going to take a measuring spoon. I have about a 1/2 teaspoon measuring spoon right here. And this is what's called scallop on the pie crust. So we're starting with just the plain flat edge. I'm going to press it down just a little bit more, so it really shows the pattern that the spoon is about to make. And I'll come closer. I think I can actually manage holding the pie crust and doing this one. So I'm going to take a spoon and I'm just going to press it lightly into the edge like that. And then next to it, and then next to it. And it makes this really pretty scalloped edge that you'll actually see on the page. I use this as the example for the perfect paleo pie crust. But this looks really pretty, and you can come back and you can make it a double scallop by doing a little bit on the inside, depending on how fancy you want to get that day. But you can make it look really nice, and again, it dresses things up and it takes your pie crust to the next level. The last style of pie crust I'm going to show you is, again, using a fork similar to the thatch, but we're going to give it triangles. So we're going to angle in and angle out and make kind of little triangles around the crust. So we're going to go in and then leave a little triangle at the base, and angle it the opposite way on the next impression. And then the first way, and then the second way. And then you want to clean out any pie crust that might get stuck in your fork tongs. And then again, keep going one way and then the opposite way. And you'll start to see a really cool, different type of like what I call a thatch design happening. And I really like this one. This is what I use in the lemon meringue pie. I guess I bring my, this can be like art for me, so I bring my kind of creative side into the pie crust arena. And to me, the thatch design is a little more angled, it's a little edgy, it fits with citrus. So that's why I use it for the, what page is it? I love this one, the lemon meringue pie on page 103. So you saw I got a little fancy with that. And again, I just wanted to give you guys a little bit of background. You'll see these pictures in the cookbook. I want you to know exactly how to make them, because if you want to recreate something exactly the way it looks in the picture, you have to know the technique. And also, if you haven't already grabbed your copy of Paleo Sweets, it's available. I'll add the link below the video right afterwards. It's a free cookbook. All you have to do is pay shipping, and it'll be all yours, all the pies in the world. So now that we have the pie done, the pie crust, you can pick whatever way you want to design it. The last step before you bake it is going to be to pierce the bottom. And I'm just kind of taking a fork and going all along the bottom. That makes it bake a little bit easier and make sure it doesn't trap any air that would make it puffy on the bottom. And then I'm going to put it on a baking sheet. This is an amazing trick if you don't want to mess up your pie crust, or if you're baking a fruit pie and you know it's going to overflow. You can go ahead and set the pie crust on a baking sheet. A, it makes it easier to get in and out of the oven. B, it catches any overflow. If the pie does get super juicy and bubbles over, you don't have to worry about scrubbing your oven for hours afterwards. So I'm going to bake this at 350 degrees for about 15 minutes, and I'll show you what that looks like when it comes out of the oven, because I baked one earlier for you guys. So this is it. This is a perfect paleo pie crust, and if you look a little bit closer, you can see the texture on the bottom, really classic. I can tell that it has a lot of good fats in there. The fats are what are going to help keep it super flaky, and you can also see exactly how the designs turn out in the crust. There are scallops, we have our double scallops, so yeah, perfect paleo pie crust. Again, you can make spring fruit pies, you can make winter not savory pies, you can make savory pies, quiches if you want, or something rich and nutty. Grab your copy of Paleo Sweets so you can get this recipe plus all the yummy pie recipes that I decided to throw together for you guys. Click the link below the video. As soon as I get off, I promise I'll post it, and you can grab your free copy. All you have to do is pay shipping. Oh, all right, well, thank you guys so much for joining me. I really appreciate it. Say hi, let me know where you're from, let me know what your favorite pie is, and let me know what you'd like to see me cooking next time. All right, I'll talk to you guys later. Take care.